All right, today we're diving into something truly incredible. We're talking about a life-saving technology that comes from, well, one of the last places you'd ever think to look. And trust me, the story starts with a question that sounds completely made up. Okay, so let's just jump right in. I want you to think about this for a second. Can a goldfish learn to drive a car? I'm not kidding. A real, actual, moving vehicle. What's your gut reaction to that? Well, if you thought, no way, you're not alone. But the answer is yes. It's absolutely wild. Scientists have actually taught goldfish to steer a little vehicle around a room from inside their fish tank. But here's the thing. As mind-blowing as that is, it's really just the warm-up act. The science behind it is being used for something way, way more important. So, how in the world do you teach a fish to drive? Well, it all comes down to a really powerful but surprisingly simple idea. I like to call it the science of a snack. Okay, the official name for this is stimulus reward training. It's a cornerstone of animal behavior studies. And the idea is pretty straightforward, right? You present a signal, that's the stimulus, and whenever the animal does what you want, you give it something it loves, that's the reward. Do that enough times, and bam, you create this super strong connection in its brain. Let's break it down. Step 1, you introduce the stimulus, let's say a specific smell. Step 2, right after, you give a reward, like a little bit of food. You just repeat that a few times, and pretty soon, the association is locked in. The animal smells that scent, and it immediately expects the reward, triggering a specific reaction. Okay, so if this technique is powerful enough to teach a fish to drive, just imagine the other possibilities. And that brings us to the main event. We're about to see how this same principle is used to train a tiny, tiny creature for an incredibly important job. It's time to talk about the Honeybee Sentinel. Yep, you heard that right. The hero of this story isn't some billion-dollar robot or a super complex piece of tech. It's the humble honeybee. You know, the same little guy you see buzzing around your garden. But scientists have figured out how to give them a brand new and pretty astonishing job. So, what's the stimulus in this case? What specific scent are these bees being trained to pick up on? Well, it's not a flower. It's the unmistakable chemical signature of TNT, a core ingredient in landmines and other explosives. And the reward? The little treat they get for a job well done? It's exactly what you'd think a bee would want, a tiny, delicious drop of sugar water. Simple, effective, and for a bee, absolutely irresistible. Okay, so what's the reaction we're looking for? What do the bees do when they smell TNT? This is the best part. They stick out their tongues. It's this natural feeding reflex. It's called the proboscis extension reflex. Basically, their brain has linked the smell of TNT with the reward, so they smell the explosive and think, ooh, sugar water, and they automatically stick out their little tongue-like proboscis to drink. You can actually see it happen. It's a perfect, clear signal. So, one bee sticking its tongue out. That's a neat trick, right? But how do you turn that into something that can actually save lives? This is where we go from a cool science experiment to a genuine breakthrough. This is how you build a living bomb detector. And this is where it gets really, really smart. See one bee's reaction? That's just one data point. It could be a mistake, right? But what happens when you put a whole bunch of these trained bees into a small device and dozens of them all stick their tongues out at the exact same time? Well, that's not a fluke anymore. That's a powerful, reliable alarm bell going off. Now, think about how this stacks up against our usual bomb detectors. The traditional methods, they're often super high-tech, really expensive, and need constant power and maintenance. The honeybees, they're completely natural, they literally replicate themselves, and they are incredibly cheap. Not to mention, you can train them super fast. You could, in theory, train them to detect almost any chemical you want. So, when you take a step back and look at the big picture, what's the real lesson here? For me, it's all about recognizing the incredible, often hidden genius of the natural world. I mean, why is this so important? Because it shows us that sometimes the best solution to a super complex, high-tech problem is actually low-tech. It's a reminder that we can work with animals in ethical ways to achieve amazing things. And maybe most importantly, it proves that the next big world-changing idea might not come from a fancy lab. It might just be buzzing around in a beehive. And that's really the question I want to leave you with. If we can teach bees to find bombs and teach goldfish to drive, what else is out there? What other mind-blowing, life-saving secrets are just waiting to be discovered in the animal kingdom? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Thanks so much for diving into this with me.